I think people expect rich people to be geniuses. We expect the Bond villain who's playing 5D chess. And he's actually just a bit of an idiot. He thinks he's very good at telling true information from false information. He's not. He has been radicalized by his supporters and by his haters.
Now, the man who once called Donald Trump a stone-cold loser has embarked on a relentless campaign to elect him for a second term.
Make sure they actually do vote. If they don't, this will be the last election. That's my prediction. Nothing's more important. Nothing's more important.
That was Elon Musk attending the rally with Donald Trump in Pennsylvania, maintaining that if the Democrats win, this might be the last election in the United States. He believes that Pennsylvania is key to Trump's electoral success. He supported Donald Trump at his rally 2 weeks ago in Butler in Pennsylvania, and is rallying support for the president on Twitter, or now as it's called now, X. And above all, is throwing hundreds of millions of dollars into Trump's campaign. And there are more accusations that negative stories about Donald Trump are not being allowed to spread as quickly as positive stories on the platform. Well, joining us now is James Ball, political editor for the New European. James, good afternoon. Let's start with the money, James. It's not unusual for very rich people in the US to put hundreds of millions of dollars behind presidential campaigns.
It's unusual, but not unheard of. I think Elon Musk has talked about putting in up to $45 million a month to a super PAC supporting Donald Trump. That's high even for the US, but the caveat is that we don't know for sure he's done it yet. And a lot of what Elon Musk says isn't necessarily what actually happens, but he's definitely throwing a lot of support behind. We're not quite sure how much yet.
What about the accusations that X is coordinating with the Trump campaign to throttle links that are negative for Donald Trump? So this idea that the algorithm is not really going to push stuff that is critical of the former president.
I think it's both bigger and smaller than that. I don't think Elon's sitting sort of going tick to this story and cross to this story for everything, although I think he has done it for one or two. But he's restructured Twitter to absolutely suit Donald Trump and Trump supporters. In 2020, you saw huge sort of blow-ups from mainstream Republican politicians if Twitter put on fact checks on untrue stories or sort of suppressed fake news from going viral as easily. Whereas Twitter now actively boosts those stories. And Elon personally posts far-right news, shares far-right news, and shares outright false stories. And he's got a following of 200 million, and the algorithm aggressively boosts his own account as well. And so the value of the views that he's generating for pro-Trump content are probably coming quite close to his financial contribution. The question is whether there are really any floating voters or sort of, undecided voters still left on Twitter, because it's quite an aggressively right-wing place now.
I mean, if we set aside what Elon Musk said before his acquisition of Twitter, he felt that it should be a neutral place, the sort of town square of the world. I think there is a tweet, which I'm paraphrasing now because I haven't got it in front of me, but it was, Twitter needs to remain neutral, which is going to upset both the far left and the far right. He seems to have moved away from that. Apart from the fact that, from what we understand, he has been offered some sort of position in a possible Trump government. What's in it for Elon Musk? Or is he really behind the Trump ideology, having previously called him a stone-cold loser?
I think people expect rich people to be geniuses. We expect the Bond villain who's playing 5D chess. And he's actually just a bit of an idiot. He thinks he's very good at telling true information from false information. He's not. He has been radicalized by his supporters and by his haters. He's obsessed with the coverage of himself, and anyone who gets like that ends up radicalized. And so he's not the same man he was 4 years ago. Now, he might be brilliant at pushing companies to innovate. his rockets are amazing. SpaceX is amazing. Tesla used to be very good. Its cars have gone off the boil now, according to people who know this. But I think he has just been radicalized the same way that anyone else might be radicalized. And I think we want there to be more to it when there's a billionaire, but he is just publicly humiliating himself. And I mean that if people have seen that photo of him sort of looking like he's jumping for joy like a kind of toddler on stage with Donald Trump, you sort of think, if you're worth 200 billion, should you not look more impressive than that? But he just does give off divorced energy on the world stage.
What's in the future for Elon Musk? So let's just briefly take, because it's on a knife edge. It's a coin toss, this election. If Donald Trump loses and Kamala Harris takes the presidency, what happens to Elon Musk, to X, to Tesla, to everything connected with him? Will anything change for Elon Musk, or will it be business as usual?
So we've had 4 years of a Democratic presidency, and Musk's net worth has more than doubled.
Right.
He's got huge US government contracts, including security clearance contracts, which is quite disturbing. I think he would face the consequences that any social network that's pushing extremist and dangerous information would. He may face some consequences in that level, but Democrats don't really get into political reprisals, even when they should. I think because Republicans attacked Mark Zuckerberg so much for just trying to do the bare minimum on information, sort of to keep some true information out there, I think they don't want to look like the Republicans, and so just let Elon do whatever he wants. If Trump wins, I don't think one room can contain two egos that large, and so I don't think they'll actually stay in lockstep, but he'll probably get to run some silly commission that does some daft things and then Trump stops paying attention to it.
That's fascinating.
He's worth 200 billion. He's got to be fine come what may.
Yeah. No, I wasn't quite worried for Elon, but I was just wondering what will happen to X and to his companies. But fascinating stuff. James, as always, thanks so much for giving us your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
James Ball, political editor for The New European.
We are weeks away from the US presidential election, and both the Trump and Harris campaigns are ramping up attacks on each other and their pitches to the American public. How many remain undecided, and how close could that race be? This election seems to have struck Silicon Valley in a new way. Elon Musk has been the most prominent face of that impact, endorsing, campaigning and spending money on getting Donald Trump back into the White House. And Lily Lynch has been looking at the influence of tech giants on this election. She's a Californian writer currently based in Istanbul, writing for The New Statesman. Lily, welcome to you.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Now, what are these tech titans up to?
Well, they see the Democratic Party, or I should say many of them see. Of course, there are some who are still pro-Democrat, but many of these kind of right-wing tech guys tend to see the Democrats as kind of emblematic of this, overzealous pro-regulation, anti-future in a way, anti-innovation kind of tendency. And they would like to see less regulation, which they think will, allow them to get further ahead and allow the U.S. to advance past China in the AI race.
I mean, Musk in particular, there he was capering around on stage with Donald Trump. I mean, he really is giving him a lot of support, both financial and, it is alleged, on X.
Absolutely. And you could probably argue, actually, I think that maybe he would too, that the purchase of X was partly about shaping discourse in America and allowing, having a platform that would allow for the amplification of certain voices, or at least ensure that certain voices are no longer being kind of, let's say, suppressed.
And possibly even excluding other voices.
Right, exactly.
And why has he, I mean, in the past, Musk used to be a Democrat. Why has he swung so strongly behind Trump?
Well, I think that there's a number of reasons why. I mean, a couple of weeks ago on X, he said, I think in his own words, it's a good way to kind of understand where he's at, is unless Trump wins and we get rid of the mountain of smothering regulation, humanity will never reach Mars. This is existential. So I think that he has increasingly seen the Democrats and the Biden administration, perhaps in particular, as uniquely hostile to his interests and to the interests of science and progress. And you see this from everywhere from AI to crypto as well. But certainly Musk sees regulation as a threat.
And he's gone overt, it seems to me, just at a time when people on the other side of the argument, perhaps or used to be seen on the other side of the argument, like Zuckerberg, have gone frightfully quiet in their political allegiances.
Well, I'm not sure. Well, you mentioned Zuckerberg, and that's a good point. I actually see him as, maybe tilting slightly more pro-Trump in the last few weeks or few months. They actually kind of had an acrimonious relationship. And this summer, I know that he's had two phone calls with Trump, and there's been an attempt to sort of warm that relationship up. I also know that Zuckerberg wrote a letter to Congress saying that he felt pressured to enact more I guess, some kind of supposedly he felt that he had to put more censorship on Meta or Facebook than he had before. So I do see some very mild signs that he is actually kind of leaning in the direction of Trump, though I would agree that he's kind of definitely not as overt as Musk and Thiel.
Now, we got these big figures with, access to major communications. Basically, I mean, would it be fair to say they're really trying to skew the election in the interest of their own businesses?
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
can anything be done to stop that?
It's a very good point. I mean, I think that Harris is making some attempts to differentiate herself from Biden on the issue of crypto, which is extremely important for this election. They've contributed, I think, crypto accounts for nearly half of all corporate spending on this election. They're very interested in one piece of legislation in particular, which would be, really improve the situation for crypto. So she has kind of made some overtures to the crypto community, and because Biden is again seen as being uniquely hostile to crypto.
It's kind of being intimidated, isn't it?
It is a bit, yeah, certainly. But she's making some efforts there. So I mean, she's listening to them, and to be fair to the crypto side, they have been putting a lot of money into Democratic candidates as well, and I think that that's been quite successful. Something like 80%, 86% of the kind of pro-crypto candidates won primaries earlier this year. So yeah, it's a really well, I don't know if emerging is the right word, but certainly more powerful than we've ever seen this Silicon Valley for sure.
Lily Lynch, thank you very much indeed, and thank you for keeping an eye on this.